Studies in contrast in maleness. You couldn't think of two men who present the male identity almost differently from one another. What does that say about the larger culture in the United States?
That's a really interesting question. And the interesting part about that is they both turned out, shockingly enough, to be introverts. You know, they started, as you say, from such a, George Bush was the spangly cowboy and Barack Obama was the sleek, modern Spock. And yet they both turned out to be similar in the fact that they seemed a bit introverted and didn't want to explain things to the American public. W didn't want to explain the Iraq War, he just wanted to do it, and Obama didn't want to explain his healthcare system or even check out the website.
Interesting. And do you think that it's fair, these criticisms of Obama at times for not, kind of manning up? You at times in your column have kind of, given him a shot on that in a sense of that somehow being president also conveys a certain kind of charismatic masculinity that should go with it?
Well, I think the people who have been hardest on him are his base, the Democrats in Congress. Because I think that Barack Obama didn't quite understand, as Ronald Reagan did, that you want to be revered but also a little feared. Like Lyndon Johnson, how do you use the force of that amazing personality to control Congress? And he underestimated that part of the job. It turned out, amazingly enough, there's a Democratic activist who said he turned out to be, it's as though Bill Gates didn't like computers. Barack Obama turns out this amazing politician
Not to like voters, particularly.
Yeah, who overcame all these obstacles, his exotic name, everything, not much experience to become president. And then it turns out he doesn't like politics. It's stunning. But the people most upset about that are the Democrats because they want him, it's like Luke Skywalker, they want him to use the Force.
Yeah.
Or learn how to use it.
Let's talk about women for a second. We got Janet Yellen running the Fed. We've got Christine Lagarde running the IMF. Right. We've got Angela Merkel astride Europe like a colossus.
Right.
And we have Hillary Clinton now
right.
Setting herself up for 2016, looking almost unstoppable. Has the public lost trust with male politicians? Is there something going on here in the Zeitgeist?
Well, that's another great question, and it's very interesting in the case of Christine Lagarde and Janet Yellen, because the reason they got their jobs was because the men who were supposed to get those jobs were kind of behaving badly about women.
Larry Summers and DSK.
Well, Larry Summers only questioned women's ability to do math. Their brains, could they handle math? Which is so funny when you look at the Time magazine headline today, Janet Yellen said to become most important person in world. Mm-hmm. And, obviously Dominique Strauss-Kahn was much worse, orgies and everything, than Larry Summers. He just had a little bit of a, rhetorical problem. But yeah, so those two women are going to be, are two of the most important women in the world because the guys sort of stumbled on women's issues.
Let's talk about Hillary Clinton for a sec, because she's, again, a bit of a study of contrast, that she presents as a politician, maybe some male characteristics, almost kind of Thatcherite in her kind of severity and demeanor and kind of, focus. I'm focused on the issues. But then also, she is a woman, and she seems poised potentially here for a successful run to the White House.
Well, I think it's a measure of the fact of how disappointed Americans are in male leadership. I don't want to bring up the name Ted Cruz while I'm here in Canada.
Well, he's born in Canada.
I know,
so
he almost
we'll
destroyed America, so I don't want to be rude to my host. But Hillary, the race that is most hotly contemplated in America right now is not even Hillary versus Chris Christie, it's Hillary versus Elizabeth Warren. And I think that's a real testament to the fact that people in America feel like they've tried, as you say, all different kinds of male presidents, and we keep getting to the same point where, the country is sort of crumbling. So why not try women?
Let's talk about tonight's debate, the kind of collapse of male performance, and the verticals of education, the workplace, the family, especially acute in America after this recession. I mean, what has gone on here? Do you think it's it's a feeling of outmoded notions of male identity which no longer work in the 21st century? Is there something else at play that's causing men to underperform?
I think that politically, biologically, sexually, chromosomally, men just basically stopped evolving.
Okay.
Maybe in
Fair enough.
1962 or something. And women have been evolving at a really fast clip. Even the X chromosome has been speeding ahead of the Y chromosome, which was kind of shrinking and almost going off a cliff. So I just think women have blossomed and men are still struggling with how to blossom. And all women want to do is help them into this new era where masculinity is not defined in such rigid terms.
So what do you think men need to do in this new era to succeed? Should they become more feminine, or will there be a premium at, being the outrider, kind of doubling down on masculinity? Like, what's the best strategy for the male, for that Y chromosome that's in trouble?
I think that you should just do whatever we tell you.
Okay. Okay, we'll follow advice. In popular culture today, you write a lot about popular culture in addition to politics. Is there a man out there that, either a fictional character or a real-world director or writer that you think really gets the modern woman and the kind of this new dance between the genders? Is there somebody out there in popular culture that you admire for getting that right?
Oh, that's another great question. Funnily enough, I had a long interview recently with James Bond, Daniel Craig, and he is in a play with his wife, the actress Rachel Weisz, and we talked a lot about men and women, and he said that if they have, I said, well, was there a problem with billing? I thought James Bond would, of course, want top billing in this play. He makes more money than she does. And he said, no, if we have a problem, we'll figure it out like any other couple, but it cannot be to the detriment of one or the other. It has to be equal. I'm sitting there listening to James Bond, talk about equality, and it was funny, but it's very hard for two A personalities to be married to each other who have equally strong careers, and he, just kept stressing the point that any decision they made would have to be good for both of them. That being said, they'll probably be divorced in 5 years since it's Hollywood.
Look at statistics.
But they live in New York, so maybe.
They have hope yet.
Yeah.
What about a female kind of icon or celebrity that really gets what being a modern woman is wrong?
Gets what being a modern woman is wrong.
Like just, Miley Cyrus, I think, has been notorious over the last number of months for...
Right.
I think people feel reverting to, images of kind of the exploitation, the over-sexualization of young women that seem almost a throwback to the Hugh Hefner era.
Yeah, I think the problem, I was going to say that, but it seemed almost, everybody's piling on her. But I think her problem is that she doesn't understand with sexiness that less can be more sometimes. And it isn't that she can't be sexy in a performance, at a music awards show. Of course she can. But she should just study some of the stars from the 30s and 40s and see how they did it. Because just a little more mystery is always a good thing.
That's always a good thing. That's a good note for us to end it on, because we're going to keep a little mystery here for this evening to see how this debate goes. But Maureen Dowd, thank you so much for coming to Toronto.
That was so much fun. I was so scared.
And spending some time together. We're going to have a terrific night tonight.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We've got more of our debaters' pre-interviews coming up, Hannah Rosen and Camille Paglia. So we'll be back to you in a matter of minutes. Thanks.